The wind howled across the icy peaks, carrying with it a bitter cold that cut to the bone. Lara huddled against a rocky outcropping, her blue skin stark against the white snow. As she watched the last of her people's ships disappear into the stormy sky, a single thought echoed in her mind. How does it feel to be the last of your kind? Imagine waking up one day to find that everyone you've ever known has left you behind. Your family, your friends, your entire species, gone. What would you do? How would you survive? For Lara, a young Argon on a dying world, this nightmare had become her reality. As tears stung her eyes and the reality of her abandonment set in, Lara had no idea that fate was about to throw her an unexpected lifeline. Little did she know that high above her, beyond the swirling storm clouds, another ship was plummeting towards her frozen world. A ship carrying beings she had only heard of in stories. What would happen when two vastly different species collided on this hostile planet? Could Lara find a new purpose, or even a new family, among these alien visitors? And what secrets lay buried beneath the ice, waiting to be uncovered? As night fell and the temperature plummeted further, Lara knew she had to find shelter or freeze to death. Her legs trembled with cold and fatigue as she stumbled through the deepening snow. Just when she thought she could go no further, a deafening roar split the air and a blinding light filled the sky. The wind howled across the icy peaks of Argos, carrying with it a bitter cold that cut to the bone. Lara huddled against the rocky outcropping, her blue skin standing out starkly against the white snow. She pulled her thin cloak tighter around her shoulders, but it did little to ward off the chill. Tears stung her eyes as she watched the last of the Argon ships disappear into the stormy sky. They had left her behind, deemed too weak to make the journey to their new home. At just 16 cycles old, she was now completely alone on this harsh, unforgiving world. Argos hadn't always been like this. In Lara's earliest memories, there were still patches of green visible through the snow, and the winters, while cold, were not the endless frozen wasteland that now dominated the planet. She remembered her parents telling her stories of the Argos that was, a world of vast forests and rolling grasslands, of cities that sparkled like jewels under the light of 3 suns. But that world was gone now, swallowed by ice and snow. It had started slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. Winters grew longer, summers shorter and cooler. Crops failed more frequently, and the great herds of grazers that once roamed the plains dwindled and disappeared. The Argon scientists had warned of this, had pleaded with the leaders to take action, but their cries went unheeded for too long. By the time the full scale of the crisis became apparent, it was already too late. The planet's climate had shifted dramatically, plunging Argos into an ice age that showed no signs of abating. The once verdant world was now a frozen wasteland, hostile to all but the hardiest forms of life. Lara shivered, pulling herself back to the present. The last glimmer of the evacuation ships had faded from view, leaving nothing but the endless expanse of gray sky. She knew she should move, find shelter before night fell and the temperature plummeted even further, but her body felt leaden with despair. Why had they left her behind? The question burned in her mind, though she already knew the answer. She was different, weaker than the others. A genetic anomaly, the healers had said, one that made her ill-suited for the rigors of space travel and colonizing a new world. In the ruthless calculus of survival, she was a liability they couldn't afford. "You'll only slow us down," the evacuation coordinator had told her, his voice gruff but not unkind. "The journey will be difficult, and resources are limited. I'm sorry, child, but you must stay behind." Lara had pleaded, begged, even tried to sneak aboard one of the ships, but to no avail. In the end, she had watched helplessly as her people, her family, abandoned her to die on this frozen rock. As night began to fall and the temperature plummeted further, Lara knew she had to find shelter or freeze to death. Her legs trembled with cold and fatigue as she stumbled through the deepening snow. The wind whipped her long white hair across her face, obscuring her vision. Just when she thought she could go no further, Lara spotted a dark opening in the mountainside ahead. A cave. With the last of her strength, she dragged herself inside and collapsed onto the rocky floor. As unconsciousness took her, Lara's last thought was that at least she would die with a roof over her head. As Lara led Captain Raymond and Cooper towards the crash site, the wind howled around them, whipping snow into their faces. The broken hull of the horizon loomed ahead, a dark gash against the white landscape. Lara couldn't help but marvel at the alien design of the ship, so different from the sleek organic lines of Argon vessels. "Watch your step," she called over the wind. "The snow can hide deep crevasses." Raymond nodded, his eyes scanning the terrain. "Cooper, start your assessment as soon as we reach the ship. I want to know if there's any chance of getting her space-worthy again." As they approached the wreckage, Lara noticed movement out of the corner of her eye. She froze, holding up a hand to halt the others. "Wait," she whispered. "We're not alone." Emerging from behind a twisted piece of hull was a creature unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body covered in thick white fur that blended seamlessly with the snow. 6 powerful legs supported its massive frame, and a long whip-like tail swished behind it. But most terrifying were its eyes, 3 glowing ice-blue orbs that fixed upon the group with predatory intent. "Ice Stalker," Lara breathed, her voice tight with fear. Raymond's hand went to his weapon, but Cooper grabbed his arm. "Captain, wait! That thing's hide looks too thick. A normal shot might just anger it." The Ice Stalker let out a bone-chilling roar, pawing at the ground as it prepared to charge. Lara's mind raced, remembering old Argon hunting techniques. "The eyes!" she shouted. "Aim for its eyes." As the creature lunged forward, Raymond fired 3 rapid shots. 2 missed, but the third found its mark. The Ice Stalker bellowed in pain and confusion, stumbling to the side. "Run!" Lara yelled, pulling Cooper by the arm. The 3 of them sprinted through the snow, the wounded but enraged Ice Stalker in pursuit. They weaved between pieces of wreckage, using the debris as cover. Suddenly, Lara's foot caught on a hidden piece of metal, and she tumbled to the ground. The Ice Stalker was upon her in an instant, its massive paw raised for a killing blow. Lara closed her eyes, certain her end had come. But the blow never fell. Instead, she heard a strange humming sound, followed by an agonized screech from the creature. She opened her eyes to see Cooper standing over her, wielding what looked like a glowing blue sword. The Ice Stalker retreated, smoke rising from a cauterized wound on its flank. "Are you okay?" Cooper asked, helping Lara to her feet. She nodded, too stunned to speak. Raymond joined them, his weapon still trained on the wounded predator. "What the hell is that thing, Cooper?" Cooper grinned, despite the danger. "Emergency plasma cutter. I guess it works on more than just metal." The Ice Stalker, clearly deciding that its prey was more trouble than it was worth, let out a final roar before lumbering away into the swirling snow. As the adrenaline faded, Lara found herself trembling. "Thank you," she managed. "You saved my life." Cooper's grin softened into a warm smile. "Hey, we're all in this together now, right? Besides, I'd say we're even after you helped us yesterday." Raymond holstered his weapon, his expression grim. "That was too close. We need to be more careful. Lara, are there many of these Ice Stalkers around?" She shook her head. "No, they're rare, but they're drawn to heat and movement. The crash probably attracted this one." "All right," Raymond nodded. "Let's salvage what we can quickly and get back to the cave. We need to come up with a more permanent solution for shelter and defense." As they worked to retrieve crucial components and supplies from the wreckage, Lara found her gaze continually drawn to Cooper. The way he had leapt to her defense, the skill with which he handled his tools and technology, it all fascinated her. For the first time, she began to see the humans not just as alien beings, but as individuals. Brave, resourceful, and perhaps even friends. Back in the relative safety of the cave, the mood was tense but focused. The encounter with the Ice Stalker had driven home the dangers of their situation, and everyone knew that their survival depended on swift action. Captain Raymond called a meeting, gathering everyone around the makeshift heater they'd salvaged from the ship. "All right, people, we need to get organized. Our immediate priorities are secure shelter, sustainable food and water, and a way to contact Earth for rescue. Doctor? Chen spoke up, her red hair glowing in the dim light of the cave. Captain, I've done an inventory of our medical supplies. We have enough to last a few weeks, but after that... She trailed off, the implication clear. Understood, Raymond nodded. Cooper, what's the status on the ship's systems? The young engineer ran a hand through his unruly hair. Not good, Cap. The main reactor's shot, and we lost most of our comm array in the crash. I might be able to rig up a short-range distress beacon, but anything capable of reaching Earth is going to take time and parts we don't have. Raymond's jaw tightened. Keep working on it. Even short-range communications could be crucial. He turned to Lara. You mentioned this cave system is extensive. Could we set up a more permanent base here? Lara nodded eagerly, glad to be of help. Yes, these caves go deep into the mountain. There are larger chambers further in that would be easier to heat and defend. I can show you. Oh, good. Cooper, you and Lara scout out these inner chambers. Doctor, Corey, see what you can learn about the local flora and fauna. Maybe there's something we've overlooked that could be useful. Doctor, Chen set up a proper med bay. The rest of you start moving our supplies deeper into the cave. As the group dispersed to their tasks, Cooper gestured for Lara to lead the way. They moved deeper into the cave system, the pale glow of bioluminescent fungi providing just enough light to see. So, Cooper said as they walked, you've lived your whole life on this planet? What was it like before? Before it turned into this frozen wasteland? Lara's eyes took on a distant look. It was beautiful, she said softly. There were forests that stretched as far as the eye could see, with trees taller than your ship. The oceans were vast and teeming with life. Our cities. She paused, swallowing hard. Our cities were like nothing you've ever seen. Towers of crystal and living wood that sang in the wind. Cooper whistled low. Sounds amazing. I'm sorry you lost all that. Lara nodded, grateful for his empathy. What about your world? What's Earth like? As Cooper described the varied landscapes and cultures of Earth, Lara found herself captivated. A world with such diversity of environments and people seemed almost unimaginable. Their conversation was interrupted as they entered a vast chamber, easily large enough to house the entire crew comfortably. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls, and a small underground stream trickled along one wall. This is perfect, Cooper grinned. Good water source, defensible entrance, plenty of space. Nice find, Lara. Over the next few days, the humans worked tirelessly to transform the chamber into a livable base. Cooper rigged up a clever heating system using geothermal energy from deep within the mountain. Dr. Corey discovered that some of the cave fungi were not only edible, but highly nutritious. And bit by bit, the cold alien cave began to feel almost like home. Throughout it all, Lara worked alongside the humans, teaching them about Argos and learning about Earth in return. She found herself growing closer to the crew, particularly Cooper. His quick wit and technological ingenuity never ceased to amaze her. One evening, as they sat around the heating unit sharing a meal of cave fungi and reconstituted rations, Dr. Chen turned to Lara with a curious expression. Lara, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how is it that you can understand and speak our language so well? Lara blinked, surprised by the question. Oh, I suppose I never explained. All Argents are implanted with a neurological translator at birth. It allows us to quickly learn and adapt to new languages. I've been automatically learning English since I first heard you speak. This revelation led to an excited discussion about Argon technology, with Cooper particularly fascinated by the implications. As Lara explained more about her people's advancements, she felt a bittersweet mix of pride and sorrow. Pride in her culture's achievements, and sorrow for all that had been lost. As the evening wore on and people began to retire to their sleeping areas, Cooper approached Lara. Hey, I was wondering if you'd like to help me with something tomorrow. I have an idea for improving our long-range scanner, but I could use someone with knowledge of local conditions. Oh, Lara felt a warm flutter in her chest at his request. I'd be happy to help, she smiled. As she curled up in her sleeping bag that night, Lara realized that for the first time since being left behind, she felt like she belonged somewhere. These humans, with their strange appearances and fascinating technology, had become more than just allies of convenience. They were becoming friends, and perhaps, she thought as she drifted off to sleep, even a new kind of family. The next morning, Lara awoke to the now familiar sounds of the human camp stirring to life. The scent of what the humans called coffee wafted through the air, a bitter but not unpleasant smell that she had come to associate with the start of each day. As she made her way to the common area, she found Cooper already hard at work, surrounded by an array of tools and electronic components. He looked up as she approached, a grin spreading across his face. "Morning, Lara? Ready to dive into some high-tech tinkering?" She nodded, returning his smile. "I'm eager to learn. What exactly are we working on?" Cooper launched into an explanation of his plan to modify their long-range scanner, his words punctuated by excited gestures. Lara listened intently, fascinated by the ingenuity of human technology. It was so different from Argon tech, which relied more on biological components and psychic interfaces. As they worked, Cooper's curiosity about Lara's past bubbled to the surface. "So, if you don't mind me asking," he began, carefully soldering a connection, "what was your life like before all this? You know, before the evacuation?" Lara's hands stilled for a moment, a wave of memories washing over her. I was a student," she said softly, "training to be a bioengineering through nature. My parents were scientists, working on ways to reverse the climate change. Her voice caught. They were on one of the first evacuation ships." Cooper set down his tools, giving Lara his full attention. "They left you behind?" he asked gently. She nodded, blinking back tears. "They didn't have a choice. The evacuation was chaotic, strictly controlled. My genetic anomaly." She gestured to herself. "It made me a low priority for evacuation. By the time my parents realized I hadn't been assigned to a ship, it was too late. Their ship was already leaving." Cooper reached out, hesitating for a moment before placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Lara. That must have been awful." She leaned into his touch, grateful for the comfort. "It was, but in a way I understood. The survival of our species had to come first. I never expected to be alone for so long, or to ever see another sentient being again." Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Curry's excited voice echoing through the cave. "Captain, everyone, you need to see this." Lara and Cooper exchanged a glance before hurrying to join the others. They found Dr. Curry standing at the cave entrance, his dark eyes wide with excitement. "Look," he said, pointing to the sky. Lara gasped. The usually gray, overcast sky had cleared, revealing a breathtaking display of cosmic beauty. 3 moons hung in the sky, each a different size and color, casting an ethereal light over the snow-covered landscape. And beyond them, visible now without the cloud cover, was a vast swath of stars and nebulae, painting the sky in hues of purple, blue, and gold. "It's the Andromeda Galaxy," Captain Raymond breathed. "We're seeing it from the inside." For a moment, everyone stood in awed silence, human and Argon alike united in their wonder at the cosmic spectacle. Dr. Chen was the first to speak. "Lara, is this normal? Does the sky clear like this often?" Lara shook her head, her voice hushed with emotion. "No, it's very rare now. The last time I saw the sky like this was the night before the evacuation began." The weight of that statement hung in the air. It was a stark reminder of all that Lara had lost, but also of the incredible journey that had brought them all together. As they stood there gazing at the stars, Cooper's hand found Lara's. She intertwined her blue fingers with his pink ones, marveling at how natural it felt. Captain Raymond cleared his throat, breaking the spell. "It's beautiful, but we can't let ourselves get distracted. We still have a lot of work to do if we're going to survive here long enough for rescue." The group nodded, reluctantly turning away from the celestial display. But as they headed back into the cave, there was a new energy in the air. The reminder of the vast universe beyond their icy prison had rekindled their determination to survive and find a way home. Lara lingered for a moment, taking one last look at the sky. For so long, those stars had represented everything she had lost. But now, standing here with her new human companions, she dared to hope that they might also represent a future she never thought she'd have. With that thought warming her heart, she turned and followed the others back into the cave, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As days turned into weeks, the human crew and Lara fell into a routine. Their cave base had become a haven of warmth and safety in the harsh Argos environment. But despite their relative comfort, a sense of urgency permeated the air. They all knew that their supplies wouldn't last forever, and their only hope for long-term survival was rescue from Earth. Cooper had been working tirelessly on the communication problem, often staying up late into the night, tinkering with salvaged components from the horizon. Lara found herself drawn to his workspace, fascinated by his persistence and ingenuity. One evening, as Cooper cursed softly at a particularly stubborn piece of equipment, Lara approached him. "Any progress?" she asked gently. Cooper ran a hand through his disheveled hair, leaving it standing on end. "Some, but not enough. I've managed to boost our signal strength, but it's still nowhere near powerful enough to reach Earth." He sighed heavily. "If only we had access to some of your people's technology. From what you've told me, Argon communications were far more advanced than ours." Oh, Lara's brow furrowed in thought. "Well, most of our advanced tech was taken during the evacuation, but She trailed off, a memory surfacing. "But what?" Cooper prompted, his eyes lighting up with hope. "There might be something," Lara said slowly. "Before the evacuation, there was a research station in the mountains to the north. It was working on atmosphere modification, trying to reverse the climate change. If it's still there, it might have communication equipment powerful enough to boost your signal." Cooper jumped to his feet, his fatigue forgotten. "Lara, you're a genius. We need to tell the captain about this right away." They rushed to find Captain Raymond, who listened to their proposal with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "It's a long shot," he said, "but it might be our best option." "How far is this research station?" Lara calculated quickly. "About a 5-day journey on foot, given the current conditions. But the terrain is treacherous, and the weather unpredictable." Raymond nodded grimly. "We'll need to put together an expedition team. Lara, Cooper, you're both in. Dr. Chen, we'll need you in case of medical emergencies. I'll lead the team myself." As they began preparations for the journey, Lara felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The thought of venturing out into the Argos wilderness brought back painful memories of her people's exodus. But it also offered a glimmer of hope, both for the humans' rescue and for uncovering more of her world's lost heritage. The expedition set out at first light, the sky a pale lavender, as Argos's 3 suns began their slow ascent. Lara led the way, her blue skin almost luminescent in the early morning light. Cooper walked beside her, his pack laden with tools and spare parts. Captain Raymond and Dr. Chen brought up the rear, their eyes constantly scanning for potential threats. As they trekked across the icy landscape, Lara found herself opening up more to Cooper about her past. She told him about her childhood dreams of becoming a terraformer, of restoring Argos to its former glory. Cooper, in turn, shared stories of Earth, of vast oceans and lush rainforests, of bustling cities and quiet countryside. "You know," Cooper said as they navigated a particularly tricky ice formation, "if we manage to contact Earth, you should come back with us. I think you'd love it there." Lara's heart skipped a beat at the suggestion. The thought of leaving Argos, of seeing a whole new world, was both thrilling and terrifying. "Do you really think they'd let me?" she asked hesitantly. Cooper grinned. "Are you kidding? You'd be the scientific discovery of the century. Plus, after everything you've done for us, there's no way we'd leave you behind." His words warmed Lara more than any heating unit could. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly imagine a future beyond the icy confines of Argos. Their journey was not without its challenges. On the third day, they encountered another ice stalker. This time, they were prepared. Using a combination of Cooper's makeshift weapons and Lara's knowledge of the creature's weaknesses, they managed to drive it off without casualties. As they huddled around their portable heater that night, Dr. Chen turned to Lara. "I've been meaning to ask," she said, her voice low to avoid waking the others, "about your genetic anomaly. You mentioned it was the reason you were left behind. What exactly does it entail?" Lara was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "It's a mutation that affects my body's ability to regulate temperature," she explained. "Most Argons can survive extreme cold by entering a sort of hibernation state. I can't do that. It makes me more vulnerable to Argos's climate, and the Evacuation Council thought it would make me a liability on a new world." Doctor? Chen's eyes lit up with scientific curiosity. "Fascinating. But from what I've observed, it seems to have also made you more adaptable to varied environments. In a way, it might make you better suited for life on a planet like Earth than your peers." Lara had never considered her condition in that light before. The thought that her perceived weakness might actually be a strength in a different context was revelatory. As they continued their journey, the terrain became increasingly difficult. Jagged ice formations rose like glass skyscrapers, and hidden crevasses threatened to swallow the unwary. But Lara's knowledge of the land proved invaluable, guiding them safely through the treacherous landscape. On the fifth day of their journey, as they crested a steep ridge, Lara suddenly stopped in her tracks. "There," she said, pointing to a dark shape in the distance. "That's the research station." As they drew closer, the structure came into focus. It was a massive complex of interconnected domes and towers, its sleek design a stark contrast to the rugged landscape around it. But signs of abandonment were clear. Some of the domes had collapsed under the weight of ice and snow, and no lights shone from within. "It's bigger than I imagined," Captain Raymond murmured as they approached the main entrance. Cooper was already examining the control panel by the door. "The power's out, but I think I can bypass the lock manually. Give me a few minutes." As Cooper worked, Lara felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This place represented the last desperate efforts of her people to save their dying world. Walking its abandoned halls would be like stepping into a grave. With a hiss of hydraulics, the door slid open, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Captain Raymond took point, his weapon drawn as they cautiously entered the facility. Their flashlights cast long shadows on the walls, illuminating workstations covered in a thick layer of frost. "Let's split up," Raymond suggested. "Cooper, Lara, see if you can find the main communications array. Dr. Chen and I will search for any surviving databanks or research materials." As Lara led Cooper deeper into the complex, she couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Something about the silence felt wrong. They passed laboratories filled with strange equipment, their purpose now lost to time. "Look at this," Cooper whispered, shining his light on a large cylindrical device. "Any idea what it is?" Lara examined it closely. "I think." I think it's an atmospheric processor. It was designed to remove excess carbon dioxide from the air and replace it with oxygen. But it clearly didn't work, or not in time at least." Cooper placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Your people tried their best, Lara. Sometimes nature is just too powerful to control." They continued on, finally reaching a large circular room dominated by a massive array of antennas and dishes. "This is it," Lara breathed. "The main communication hub." Cooper immediately set to work, his fingers flying over the controls as he assessed the system. "A lot of this is damaged," he muttered, "but the core components are intact. With some repairs and a power source, we might be able to get it working." Just then, Captain Raymond's voice crackled over their communicators. "Cooper, Lara, get to the main atrium now. We've found something. Unexpected." Exchanging worried glances, they hurried to meet the others. As they entered the atrium, they saw Captain Raymond and Dr. Chen standing before a large cryogenic chamber, and inside, barely visible through a layer of frost on the glass, was the unmistakable form of an Argon. Is he more alive? Lara whispered, her voice trembling. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. According to these readings, yes. He's in deep hibernation, but alive. The implications of this discovery hung heavy in the air. They had come seeking a way to contact Earth, but instead, they had found a survivor of Argos's lost civilization. As Lara stared at the frozen face of her kinsman, she realized that her journey had taken yet another unexpected turn. The past she thought was lost forever was suddenly, startlingly present. The discovery of the cryogenically frozen Argon threw the expedition into a whirlwind of activity. Dr. Chen immediately began assessing the life support systems of the cryopod, while Cooper worked to restore power to the facility. Captain Raymond maintained a watchful eye on their surroundings, ever alert for potential threats. Lara found herself rooted to the spot, unable to tear her eyes away from the face behind the frosted glass. She felt a maelstrom of emotions: hope, fear, excitement, and a deep, aching longing for the connection to her people that she thought had been lost forever. Lara? Dr. Chen's voice broke through her reverie. I need your help. The cryopod systems are unlike anything I've seen before. Can you make sense of these readings? Shaking off her stupor, Lara moved to assist the doctor. As she examined the control panel, her eyes widened in recognition. This is Dr. Vex, she gasped. He was one of our leading climatologists. I thought he had left on the first evacuation ships. Captain Raymond frowned. Why would a top scientist stay behind? He must have believed he could still save Argos, Lara said softly, a mixture of admiration and sorrow in her voice. Over the next few hours, they worked tirelessly to stabilize the cryopod and begin the delicate process of reviving Dr. Vex. Cooper managed to reroute power from the facility's emergency generators, bringing systems online one by one. As the final stages of the revival process began, tension filled the air. None of them knew what to expect, how much time had passed from Dr. Vex's perspective, or what state of mind he would be in upon awakening. With a hiss of escaping gases, the cryopod opened. Dr. Vex's eyes fluttered open, confusion evident on his face as he took in the strange group surrounding him. Where am I? He croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse. His gaze fell on Lara, and his eyes widened in recognition of a fellow Argon. Young one, what has happened? Where are the others? Lara stepped forward, her voice gentle as she explained the situation. The evacuation, the years that had passed, and the arrival of the humans. Dr. Vex listened in stunned silence, grief etching deep lines on his face. All my work, he murmured. All our efforts. For nothing. Oh, not for nothing, Cooper interjected, drawing surprised looks from everyone. Your research, your technology, it could be the key to saving not just your people, but mine as well. The communication array here could be our ticket home, and who knows what other discoveries are waiting in this facility. Dr. Vex considered this, a spark of his old scientific curiosity returning to his eyes. Perhaps you're right, young human. If nothing else, we have a duty to preserve what knowledge we can. Over the next few days, as Dr. Vex regained his strength, they delved deep into the station's databanks. The wealth of scientific knowledge they uncovered was staggering. Advanced climatology, terraforming techniques, and technologies far beyond current human capabilities. Cooper worked with Dr. Vex to repair and upgrade the communication array, while Lara found herself immersed in the research her people had left behind. Captain Raymond and Dr. Chen focused on cataloging their discoveries and preparing for the possibility of rescue. As the day of the transmission attempt approached, Lara found herself at a crossroads. The discovery of Dr. Vex and the treasure trove of Argon knowledge had rekindled her connection to her own people and planet. But her experiences with the humans, especially her growing feelings for Cooper, pulled her in another direction entirely. The night before the scheduled transmission, Lara stood at the entrance of the facility, gazing out at the icy expanse of Argos. Cooper joined her, his presence a comforting warmth at her side. "Credit for your thoughts?" he asked softly. Lara sighed. "I'm torn, Cooper. Part of me feels a duty to stay here, to work with Dr. Vex and try to salvage what we can of my people's legacy. But another part." She trailed off, looking at him meaningfully. Cooper took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "Another part wants to see the stars? To explore new worlds?" She nodded, grateful for his understanding. "Is it selfish of me to want that? To leave behind everything I've ever known?" "I don't think so," Cooper said. "You've already given so much to your people, to this planet. Maybe it's time for you to live for yourself." He paused, gathering his courage. "And for what it's worth, I really hope you choose to come with us. Earth wouldn't be the same without you." Lara felt a warmth bloom in her chest at his words. She leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder as they looked out at the 3 moons of Argos rising over the horizon. The next morning they gathered in the communication hub. The air was thick with anticipation as Cooper and Dr. Vex made the final adjustments to the array. "Ready when you are, Captain," Cooper announced. Captain Raymond nodded solemnly. "Send the transmission." As the message beamed out into space, carrying with it their hopes for rescue and the incredible discoveries they had made, Lara made her decision. Whatever the future held, whether it was a new life on Earth or a renewed mission on Argos, she would face it with courage, curiosity, and the knowledge that she was no longer alone. The story of Lara, the Last Argon, was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning.